We are so excited for you to join our love-driven video series. Be prepared to be impacted and transformed so that you can impact others.
Hi, I'm John Picarello, Chief Leadership Officer here at Lions Pride Leadership Company, and my partner, Chad Reyes, Chief Visionaire. And today we're going to be discussing how to achieve lasting change. So, Chad, we've spoken about lasting change before, and how there are companies that go through seasons of change, but then tend to revert back to what there's almost like a default. So tell us a little bit about how do you achieve lasting change to keep your company moving forward?
Well, John, this is a question that I get asked often, and a lot of the times, it's usually around sales and around leadership. So, I really think that when we talk about lasting change never occurs because we change someone's behavior. Meaning, whenever you look at a sales organization, if they're trying to get someone to perform better, they try to give them techniques. That's what I would constitute a behavior. Okay? But the organizations that do it best is they don't start with the behavior. They start with the thought. Because thoughts become beliefs, beliefs become behaviors, behaviors become results. So if we want to have a result of a sales organization thriving, or if we want to have a result of a company running effectively because we have great leaders, well then we don't change the behavior. We have to work on the thoughts and the belief system.
Right.
So one of the things I'd say to have really lasting change at an organizational level, we need to be working on developing our leaders and helping them redefine what their thoughts life is. Okay. You see, John Maxwell, as you know, you and I have gone through this book together, Jumpstart Your Thinking.
Right.
Things like that, it's a 90-day improvement plan. Things like that is a great way to see lasting change in your organization. Because what you're doing is, it's kind of like the roots of a tree, right? When someone says, oh, well, the fruit on that tree is not good. Well, the fruits on the tree are not good because the roots are not good.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
It's a root issue, not a fruit issue.
Exactly.
Well, it's the same thing with lasting change. If we dress up and we paint a nice picture around the fruit, but we never address the issue, which is the roots, we still have the same organization. It's just dressed up to look nicer.
Right.
Right?
Okay. So for the benefit of those who would be watching, now you're going to start. So walk us through getting started, because as like any other initiative, you need a buy-in from your team. So how would you begin? And especially, you just said you start with the thoughts.
Yeah.
So starting with that, how would you bring that to your team? And what are the initial steps?
So with some of the clients that we're working on, we've actually done this, right? The first step is we need to find the influencers.
Okay.
We need to understand who the influencers are in the organization, because when we understand who the influencers are, then we can start with a top-down approach. Okay. A lot of organizations, what they do is they try to go bottom-up, and that's very difficult. But if you start with the influencers, and you get the influencers on board, guess what happens? The rest of the organization follows suit, right? It's a trickle down. So there are books that talk about this all the time, but there's one in particular I'm thinking of. It's called Leader Shift. It's not John Maxwell's book. It's actually a different book. But it spoke about that it takes 10% of an organization to truly see change. So what I would say is, no matter what the size of whoever's listening's their organization, you want to get access to 10% of the people. So if you have a 100-person company, you really want to affect change with 10.
Right.
If we can get 10% buy-in, we get the remaining 90.
Right.
Most organizations that you and I work with, and conversations we have with leaders, they think that they need 50% change. It's really not. That studies show that it's a 10%. When we get to 10%, we've reached then critical mass. Right. So the first thing is who's the influencers in the organization? And if they have positive mindsets and they're thinking well and they have good thinking, which leads to good belief systems, which leads to good behaviors, let's help them champion the cause within their organization. Now, if they don't have leaders that have good thinking and good belief systems, then I would bring in someone or bring in people like our company to help with gaining momentum.
Right.
Because momentum is key to everything in life.
Right.
Anything we want is momentum. And I say this all the time. I say, when we have momentum, we look better than we are.
Right. Yeah.
And when we don't have momentum, we look worse than we are. Right? So part of having lasting change is getting momentum first. And to get momentum first, we got to get some small wins under our belt.
That's right.
So I would say for organizations and leaders that are saying, okay, I want to have lasting change, I want the results. Remember, thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, behaviors, results. Well, we can't start with behaviors and results.
Right.
That does not give lasting change. That gives temporary change. But then we just go back to where we were.
Right.
How do we get either influencers in our organization or bring people from the outside that have influence with the team to come in and to work on their belief system?
Right.
Because when the belief system changes, and what I know is the belief system changes when the things that we put into our mind, we put into our ears, we put into our heart changes.
That's right.
Right? So many years ago, I didn't have a belief system that was supporting me, and my results showed. If you looked at my results, the results were never consistent, and the results never allowed ongoing success. It was temporary success followed by periods of failure. And reason being is that I'd never addressed the belief system and the thoughts. But something happened around 2005. All of a sudden I looked in the mirror and said, I no longer want to be this person. And what happened, John, is I started working on my thoughts.
There you go.
I started working on my thoughts every day. Every day I would listen to YouTube videos that were empowering me. I would read books that were changing my mind.
Yep.
And what happened was because my thought life changed, guess what happened to my belief system? It changed.
The values change. Yeah.
Yep. So now my belief system changed. When my belief system changed, guess what happened? All of a sudden my behavior started changing.
That's right.
And guess what happened? As my behavior started changing, I started getting lasting success. I started seeing more ongoing success. I started seeing more consistency. You know, the person that I am today is not the person I was 15, 20 years ago. And it's hard when we look at our organizations, we say we're not getting the results we want. But if we're not getting the results we want, don't go to try to work on giving them better sales techniques.
Right.
Don't go to try to give them, ways to connect with people that are not authentic.
Right.
I mean, they really what that is, it's a manipulation.
That's right.
Right?
It is. Exactly.
It's a manipulation. So what I would say to those that are listening, if you want real lasting change, work with your team to help them put good things into their mind. Help them read books. We've given books out to organizations we work with. John Maxwell's book, Jumpstart Your Thinking.
Right.
It's a 90-day improvement plan. And the purpose of it is to get good thoughts. Get your thoughts thinking positive. Start looking at opportunities. Maxwell talks about this. He talks about success consciousness. But there's also the opposite of that, scarcity consciousness.
That's right.
And what that means is it's almost like an antenna. So when we have scarce consciousness, we're always looking for the lack. We're always looking for the scarcity.
Right.
And when we have success consciousness, we're always looking for the opportunity. Where's the opportunity? Where's the ability to impact people? Where's the ability to see the opportunity to increase profit, right?
What I'd like to do is hold that thought. Now, in shifting from really it's a scarcity mindset as opposed to an abundance mindset. Now, in turning a company around, so if you could speak to this when you talk about the team, so people would want to know then, are you looking for influences in different departments rather than just one area? So picking an influencer among the different teams and the different departments you have. Speak to that, and how would you get that started, and what would be the initial steps? Because you'd get bigger bang for your buck if you got one in each department, and obviously you spoke first the influences.
Yeah.
So how would that look?
So I think the first thing is you can't try to get one in every department initially.
Okay.
It sounds great, but the truth of it is that you really need to build momentum up to that point.
Right.
So one of the things that I always talk about when I'm working with companies and we're creating strategic plans around that is, how do we find one or two people on the team? It doesn't have to be everyone.
Right.
Let's find one or two people that buy in. Let's develop them. Let's equip them. Let's get them thinking with an abundance mindset.
Right, exactly.
Once we do that, now what we have is we have our organization and we have those two people championing the cause. So then we can take it to the other divisions, because now it's not one person, it's three people. Well, three people can influence three more.
That's right.
But when we have one person trying to influence 6 or 10, it becomes very difficult, right? So I believe that it's momentum, and momentum begets more momentum and begets more momentum. And what happens is as we start working with people and they start working with their teams and they start with it being at the root issue.
Right.
Thoughts. Mm-hmm. Thoughts then become belief systems. So one of the things that we always talk about is, once we start getting these abundance thoughts, mm-hmm. how do we then instill that in our team members? Mm-hmm. And then how do we have belief systems? One of the belief systems that we have at our organization is systems for freedom. That's a belief system.
That's right.
So that belief system says that we put systems in place not because we want to have systems. We put them in place because we want to have freedom. I want you to be able to do what you do best. I want to be able to do what I do best. So these systems give us that freedom, right? So if we don't work on the thoughts, we never get to putting systems for freedom in place. Today, we have systems for freedom. These systems for freedom create tremendous results. But it's not because we're going after the results. It's because we have the right thinking that leads to the right believing, that leads to the right behavior, that leads to the result. Organizations that focus on results miss this journey.
Right.
It's a journey. And I would encourage those that are listening not to go after results. Results is a byproduct.
That's right.
Of thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. And if you're going to really start, we're going to start at thoughts and beliefs.
Right. Well, to bring this home and to close this out, you get the process started, mm-hmm. and you begin to see change. So what would your advice be, next steps, where you see some of your influences now getting a buy-in, and of course there is a ripple effect with that. So now, having that, what are next steps to secure that this continues? Because you and I both know a lot of companies, they get started, they hit the ground running, and they're sprinting rather than being in a marathon. Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give now that you've got the thing going, you've got some momentum, the last thing you want is to have that stop. Mm-hmm. So what would be the next steps keeping that going?
So first, I think I'm going to bring it right back to thoughts and beliefs.
That's right.
You're either a multiplier, you're an adder, you're a divider, or you're a subtractor.
That's right.
So if we're looking for multiplication, it's the world I want to operate in.
Right.
If we're looking to multiply, then what we want to do is, once we've worked with those two and we've developed an abundance mindset with those two, then we want to take those two and we want to go to the other divisions. And one of the things that I always share is, if the leader has an abundance mindset, high level of accountability,
right,
you're going to see positive results throughout that division. But if the leader has low accountability, if the leader has low a scarcity mindset, what do you see? You see scarce results, right? So what I would say is, to kind of wrap it up, get 2 quality leaders, develop them in your organization, then help take those 2 leaders, help them develop more leaders that can then have abundance mindsets that are overlooking those divisions. Mm-hmm. And then encourage everyone in the organization to continue to develop more leaders. Because what happens is that when you have leaders who develop leaders who develop leaders, your results is abundance. Yeah. But when you have a leader who says, I'm kind of to early what we were talking about, I'm not going to share. I'm not going to. Right. I want to keep it to myself.
Yeah, scarcity.
What happens, that scarcity mindset then, remember, whatever seed you plant is the fruit you get. So if we plant scarcity here, what do we get? Scarcity results.
That's right.
So what we need is a leader who plants abundant seeds, because then we get abundant results.
Right.
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you so much. And for those of you watching this, that achieving lasting change, and as Chad had laid out, keep in mind it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you want to keep this going, so find the influencers. Begin with them, and we'd even recommend How to Jumpstart Your Thinking by John Maxwell, and there's several others. And you can turn your company around to achieve lasting change. And when you do that, the culture that's developed begins to be self-propagating. And as people come into your company, because you've already started with your influencers, and now they've influenced people, second generation, then the new company people coming in, that they're going to be absorbed into this culture of abundance. So right off the bat, they're going to be in it. They're going to hear it talk that way. The atmosphere will be that way. And supervisors will be affecting their teams that way. So keep in mind that, as Chad had said, it starts in the thought. So lasting change begins with a thought. Thank you so much, and we'll hope to see you next time.